Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Serie A Chronicles podcast, where we are right this second, myself and Mina and Nicky, trying to pass the second Champions League draw in the space of just a few hours. We're recording right after UEFA finally got their balls together and worked out which way round they should be for the draw. We've got Italian teams to getting some very different draws, I suppose, second time around. And I'm going to jump straight into that with you, Mina. Hi, by the way. Juventus went from Sporting Lisbon to Villareal. Inter went from Ajax to Liverpool. Now, neither of those are easy draws. Ajax playing brilliantly, but that feels like an out of a frying pan into the fire situation, perhaps.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I mean, everyone always sort of talks about Ajax as, generally speaking, obviously their brand is not as big as Liverpool, but if you saw them this Champions League and their matches against Borussia Dortmund and just how capable and well-versed they are in the style of play they are, it wasn't going to be an easy draw either way, and Ajax, obviously, I always have nightmares about them. They knocked Juventus out, they knocked Real Madrid out when they play well. We're not discussing Ajax. I've just realised this is a different pod, and the whole point is Inter.
This is the alternate reality podcast. This is the podcast which we would have had if the draw had been the original draw. Before they, as everyone likes to say in Italy, before they rotto le palle, before they broke the balls, that's what we would have had. But instead, we've wound up with this draw, and there's no Ajax in it. Not the Italian side anyway.
But there is. Obviously, I look at this team and I think to myself, it's freaking Liverpool, right? Like, they're probably the best team in Europe right now. I think they're better than Chelsea, and I think they're better than Manchester City,
Do you think they're better than Bayern?
Will have different.
Do you think they're better than Bayern, I suppose, is the next question.
I don't rate
Bayern. That's a different conversation.
I don't rate Bayern, to be honest with you, this season. Yeah, that's what. But Liverpool... I know this sounds really crazy because I think you and I both agree on this because we do have conversations before the show starts, I was obviously very, very, very irritated with the way that people spoke about Milan after their loss to Liverpool. Everyone's going, this is the Milan of Baresi and Maldini. Sorry, it's a lot of Scottish punditry that I was listening to at the time. And I just thought to myself... And I just thought, guys, that's so harsh. You can't stop. Milan, this is a different Milan side that doesn't have, Maldini and Baresi. Maldini is a director. This is a team that has Junior Messias and, really great players, Brahim Diaz and stuff, but certainly not of the level that what Milan was. So they can't be fighting against their own reputation as well as Liverpool. Give them a break. It's been 7 years since they've been playing in this competition. Their average age is 13, other than the attack, which is Zlatan at 40. So there's only so much, and so to sit there and be like, how embarrassing for Serie A. Well, no, not really, because they are prioritizing Serie A. They're exhausted. They've got lots of energy. They've spent a lot of energy trying to win all the matches they've done, and they can't do that. They are the fourth seed in the group of death, as it was labeled. They managed a great win against Atletico. They managed great game against Liverpool, scoring 2 goals, even when they started off so badly. Let's just give them a break a second. This is no reflection of Serie A. So I'm glad it's Inter, because I feel like Inter's a great representative of the league. I do think they can do something special against Liverpool, because I really fancy their midfield. Liverpool probably will win it, just because, like I said, for me, they're the best team in Europe by far. So it's obviously going to be interesting. I just really hope that Inter do us justice and show what Serie A is about.
There's so many threads to pull out of what you've just been talking about, Mina. First of all, I feel like I want to say with Milan, sure, Milan ended the group horribly, right? They did. And to not perform better in that last game and Liverpool have no motivation, you can kill them for that, right? On the other hand, Milan should have beaten Atletico twice. They are victims of themselves. I'm not giving them a free pass for Kessie getting that red card against Atletico, but they still outplayed Atletico, conceded after playing on 10 men for more than half the match in the 96th minute, the winner in that game. So that could have been a very different game. And actually away at Anfield, they were clearly inferior to Liverpool, but they also scored 2 goals, led for a while, and had to be undone by something kind of magical from Mohamed Salah. So I'm not sort of okay even with that part of the narrative, because I think it gets sort of focused on what happened yesterday, not literally yesterday, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, we're only interested in the most recent thing that happened rather than actually what's happened over the last few months. Milan are also right now playing much worse than they were a few months ago, and that's just ebbs and flows of a season. We'll talk about that, but that happens over a season.
Much like Chelsea is suffering now.
Right, exactly. But Inter are a very, very different kettle of fish, certainly at the moment. Inter are playing the best football in Italy. They've shown, I think, pretty conclusively in this stretch they have the best squad depth of any of the teams in the top of Serie A. And that matters. It's going to matter going forward. Of course it does. I think at a time when almost all of the clubs who've been involved in the title race up to now seem to be on a downward trajectory, into the only one on an upward trajectory, and they really are on an upward trajectory. And I'll say over and over again, until I'm blue in the face, because of these ebbs and flows of a season, what matters is not how you're playing now, what matters is how you're playing in February. But I do believe that this Inter team have all the right pieces to be continuing to improve in what is their first season under a new manager going into the new year. So, look, I think Inter can give Liverpool a really, really competitive tie if they play as they're capable over 2 legs. I think, obviously, there's things we can't know, like a January transfer window between now and then. But I think one of the things that is also just a little voice in the back of my head, and I'm always hating myself a little bit when I fall into these cliches, because you're like, these are cliches, and I'm always fighting against the grand narratives of Italian football, which always end up painting Italians defensive and boring. But the one that I do a little bit believe in, Italian clubs have a habit of playing up or down to their opposition. It certainly goes to the national team. The national team has found sort of a habit of playing down to the lesser standard oppositions and playing up to. Now, Ajax are not a lesser standard opposition, but I feel like when you draw against Ajax, even though Ajax makes a brilliant football right now, yes, it would be sold in Italy, Ajax, as a game the Italian team was expected to win. This will be sold even in Italy as a game that Inter should lose. And I think sometimes the Italian clubs, that's actually what gets the best out of them. Now, that's maybe a little bit too hocus pocus and good or bad vibes that I'm going for there. But I don't know. I think this tie could be interesting. I really, really do. And I hope it will be. I hope Simone Inzaghi will knock them together in time for that. What do you think about, just quickly, Juventus Villareal, and then we'll have a bigger conversation about Inter while we're on this?
Yeah, you're right. Also, because Inter can keep up with the tempo that I feel like Milan have dropped in recently. So hopefully at least on a tempo level, let's see in February what happens. Villareal, I mean, this should never have been a tie because Atalanta should have gone through. That is a game that still irritates me so much, because the way that Atalanta handled and navigated the Champions League group stage has really, honestly, it's just bothered me a lot. I love the way that they play their football. They're so much fun, but I mean, you just can't be that open at the back, and you're starting to become a little predictable in the sense that Unai Emery didn't even need to be that tactically astute. He just packed the midfield. And he kept saying, I was waiting for the rabbit in the hat. You know, I was waiting for this move that was going to show something. And Gasperini took too long to make the changes that he needed to make. And frankly speaking, the team really only woke up when they started realizing that they're probably going to lose this. And their defense, for me, is just irritating. But it is Villareal, unfortunately, for the Italians. And frankly, they're a team that just draw like pretty much every game. And recently, those draws have turned into losses. They are tactically astute, but they struggle to score goals, and yet they found so many against Atalanta, you know? And so, personally speaking, I mean, this should be in the bag for Juventus. If you're asking me between Allegri and obviously Unai Emery, then I will always choose Allegri. But I also want to say, like, there's a potential that they'll go into this match without half their players, because I just haven't yet seen a full Juventus. So I don't know who the starting lineup is, because everyone's pretty much always injured. So I don't know what to assume, but you would think it's Juve's, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said before, it feels like a long time for me from here to February because of that January transfer window. And Juventus, in a normal year, I would look at how things have gone and think they're going to be quite active in the January transfer window. I don't know, with this investigation hanging over them, whether that's going to be true. We'll have to wait and see. But I think really, like, this is definitely in the territory of waiting to see if Max Allegri can do Max Allegri things between now and February, because I'm not impressed with this team right now. And look, they were supposed to beat Porto and Lyon over the last 2 years, and they didn't. So we'll see.